I now call to order the September 23rd, 2025 Board of Trustees meeting, time being 6:30 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Clerk, may I get a roll call, please?
Trustee Meagan,
Yes.
Trustee Cannon,
Here.
Trustee Daly,
Present.
Trustee Moyer,
Here.
Trustee Teets,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Here.
Mayor Shosse.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the agenda this evening? No. Are there any conflicts of interest with the agenda this evening? No. Thank you. All right, first up, we have a presentation, water source development plan and recommended strategy. Ms. Meagan Smith, Deputy Director of Public Works, will present on this item.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. We're presenting at our new AV setup, so for a little bit, I'm confused not having a laptop. Meagan Smith, Deputy Director of Public Works. This evening we have a presentation on a water source development plan. For some context, we went under contract with Westwater Consulting, Westwater Research, Inc. In May of 2024 to complete a water source development plan that would include a few key topics, including providing a demand forecast, doing a financial analysis of what the water fund could afford moving forward, and also, of course, a pretty in-depth alternatives evaluation to assess water supply options in our region. As you know, in our location in the region, we're a little isolated up here. We don't have the luxury of a river going through town or easy access to such. We are located on the North Poudre Irrigation Company, right in the heart of their distribution system. And historically, the bulk of our water supply has come through a long-term agreement with North Poudre, colloquially termed the 1983 agreement. So we will touch base a little bit on that, but mainly I'm looking forward to welcoming Adam Jokers, who's been the project manager and main point of contact for this project. He's worked with the town on a couple of different efforts, all fundamentally related to water supply planning and negotiation efforts. I'm going to turn it over to Adam to kind of dive into this presentation. The packet material is pretty in-depth. That material does include the draft final report, as well as a couple of technical memos at the back end that really go into the analysis that developed the demand estimates and our financial analysis. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Adam to step through, and then I'm looking forward to the discussion. We are looking to the board for some direct feedback on a few points that will be summarized at the end again, but I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to Adam.
Thank you. Evening, board.
Evening.
As Meagan said, we were contracted last summer to develop a plan for the town to develop water supply going into the future. A draft was delivered earlier this year, I think February, and because of some of the North Poudre negotiations, we weren't able to plug in final numbers until recent, not quite final. The point of the water source development plan really is to provide an actionable plan that the town can take to develop water supply for the next 30 years. 30-year planning horizon is what was selected. The town has done a number of planning efforts in the past. Our approach built on that, but our focus was really on the financial aspect because it became very clear very quickly that finances are what really limited the town's ability to increase its supply. Affordability was the primary focus. So with this, we developed a projection of future water demand. So how much water will the town use in the future? What is the town's financial capability to buy water supplies into the future? And then what are the best alternatives to develop? And then coalesce an implementation plan. Throughout this process, we were advised by a group, an advisory group, made up of a couple of the board trustee members, 2 members of the planning commission, several city staff, and then 2 developers, Mr. Roberson and Pat Meagan, the part of my office. We had several key decisions along the way. How much demand do we plan for? How much debt is responsible to take on? Of course, those are all council decisions, but for the sake of a consultant developing a plan, it's great to have kind of advisory committee. Our approach to water supply planning, shown in this graphic, and I'll walk it through from left. I'm getting confused with left to right. I guess that'd be, yes, left to right. We start with a large list of alternatives. The alternatives can be drill a new well, or buy some shares in a ditch company, participate in the project. We identify those alternatives, and then we estimate what the town's future demand is going to be. And we create a series of financial models to project how affordable those alternatives would be in the future. And we use a high-level screen to take that large list of alternatives and consecutively whittle them down to a short list of most actionable alternatives. Again, based on, do they meet demand and can they be afforded? At the end of this, we have a prioritized list of alternatives that we can mix and match, and then come up with a plan for implementation, actually finance. The demand analysis for Wellington is shown in this graphic. It starts with the town's current demands, and then we assess what the town's future growth potential would be. We use the comp plan and some of the land use planning that the town has completed in the past. We estimate the number of taps, water taps, which are equivalent to the number of new homes or new dwellings, and what demand each one of those dwellings is going to have into the future. A couple of the factors that we then apply to change that demand is the size of the home into the future. There's a recognition that as we grow, the housing stock is getting more dense, and that changes the demand. The lot sizes are getting more dense. That means less outdoor irrigation. And then pricing and water supply has gone up, not just in Wellington, but across Colorado. And that has driven water use down. As price goes up, people use less of a product typically. And then climate, as a hotter and potentially drier climate leads to more outdoor water use. I should mention that in all of our demand projections, we peeled out non-potable irrigation. The town has a great non-potable program. We assumed anywhere that land is currently irrigated, if it develops in the future, there would be a non-potable system. So one thing you'll notice is as the town grows, the per capita use of potable water will go down compared to today. And a lot of that has to do with more and more non-potable use. This is a summary of the demand analysis. And this graph shows our projections of demand going out into the future. We have a high, low, and most probable scenario. And we're projecting that by 2054, 30 years from, I guess, last year, when we started this, the town would have a demand of 2,600 acre feet a year. Subtracting out the town's current supply of 1875, which is made up of a assumed existing supply of 1,500 from the North Poudre Agreement and 375 acre feet from the Wilson Wells, leaves a gap of about 750 acre feet by 2054. Should mention that the 1983 North Poudre Agreement is actually for 2,000. We used 1,500 early in this process for because that was the status of negotiations at that time. Things have changed since then. Still, the 750 planning target is a reasonable estimate of how much water the town would need to the. On the financial modeling side, we took the town's existing water rate model developed by Ractelis and expanded it out to the 30-year planning horizon. And we modeled the town's debt coverage bonding capacity by evaluating the debt coverage ratio. The debt coverage ratio is a measure of how much debt payment is required each year to cover outstanding bonds versus the amount of revenue that's projected to be taken in through water rates. And typically the state requires a minimum of 1.1. We use 1.25 at the advice of the advisory committee to add a little cushion. What we found is that the town does have a bonding capacity. It starts next year. And you can see over time, this is by every 5 years going from 2030 out to 2050. The town will be able to afford large water supply investments, assuming some level of growth, assuming some level of rate increases. There's a lot of assumptions that go into these models, but regardless of how you move some of those dials, the town will have ability to take on debt to be able to buy and bond for water in the future, just not immediately, just not today. We move into the water supply alternatives. This was our long list of alternatives. We start with the current North Poudre agreement. We looked at NISP, which is the Northern Integrated Supply Project. That is a regional project proposed as 15 municipalities in the Northern Front Range. I'll cover that in a second. PRPA Partnership, that's a Platte River Power Authority. They have a Rawhide Power Plant. Potential that they might have extra water, we evaluate. We looked at non-tributary groundwater in northern Weld County. We looked at other regional water projects. There's a variety of different projects like the Wild Horse Project, posed by Million. We looked at all of those. We looked at developing additional groundwater wells like the Wilson well. We looked at connecting in with Elko and becoming a wholesale customer of theirs. We looked at aquifer storage and recovery, buying additional ditch company shares, expanding the non-potable system, and then developing the town's own reservoir. One alternative that the advisory committee asked us to look at were alternative transfer methods. These are ways of moving water from ag to municipal without permanently drying up the land. It's like a interruptible supply agreement. So that was added to the mix for the advisory committee. Based on our initial screen, we ran a lot of these through the modeling and evaluated their ability to provide wet water and their cost. We also evaluated their risk in terms of how real is this project and how reliable it will be. Our short list of alternatives are buying native water supplies, and that would be North Poudre shares, Colorado Big Thompson units, and other Poudre River ditches such as Water Supply and Storage, Landland Weld, and a variety of others, big ditch companies. NISP passed the initial screening, as did non-tributary groundwater. The PRPA Partnership, local wells, and aquifer storage and recovery all had issues either around their cost or just are they real? And we put those on the side and said maybe we can add those in later. Don't discount them, continue to monitor. And then several of these other projects we dismissed outright just because of their ability to deliver with the town. Our assessment of each alternative, we developed their costs and more importantly, their timing of costs. And I think it's important to understand that, we weren't targeting the cheapest alternative. Again, the town does not have any bonding capacity for large water supply projects today. So, but it can afford a very expensive project in the future. So we were trying to find alternatives that had a timing of costs that matched the town's revenue and bonding capability. So for each of these alternatives, we went through a series of modeling where we plugged in each tranche of new debt. And we did consider the expansion of the water treatment plant somewhere around 2040, the current treatment plant. That'll be a big debt obligation. And in this, a key assumption is what is the price of the North Poudre supplies that the town currently has? We use $1,200 an acre foot, which is currently what is under negotiation with North Poudre. And we modeled that the town would make use of North Poudre shares that it owns. It owns 74 shares, and it could use municipal multiple use portion of that. We targeted 30-year bonds at a 4% interest rate. And we assumed that there would be a payment to North Poudre, a minimum payment through 2020. Okay, so the first alternative was NISP. NISP is, again, a regional project. It proposes 2 reservoirs, Glade Reservoir at 170,000 acre feet and Gailton Reservoir at around 45,000 acre feet. Current costs are in flux. Most recent estimates were about 2.7 billion for this project. The way the town would utilize this is it would take delivery out of Glade Reservoir, presumably into the North Poudre system, the Monroe Canal, and deliver that to Reservoir number 3. In doing so, that is foreign water to the North Poudre system and incur 25% seepage costs. So you'd have to purchase more than or participate in this for a greater amount than what you would actually take delivery at Reservoir 3. When we did this, the timeline for NISP assumed that the first bond would be issued in 2026. I can tell you that's probably not realistic anymore. It has been pushed because of some of the participants seeking to push that project out. And then there would be a second bond somewhere between 2032 and 2038 to build the Gailton Reservoir portion, which provides about half the yield. First water could be delivered as early as 2031. In our modeling, I think realistically that's probably mid-20. This water would be treated by the town's water treatment plant, meaning the water treatment plant would need to be expanded somewhere around 2030. Again, Northern Water, who's a lead sponsor, recently indicated a total price of the project at 2.7 billion. Westwater evaluated what that cost could be if there were delays. There's been several delays on this project. It started in the 80s and has been permitting since 2004, I think, or 6. So it could get delayed again. We wanted to see what would that do to the price. If there's slight construction delays and cost overruns, we estimated a price of 3.1 billion, and moderate construction delays, a price of 4.3 billion. It's gotten very expensive. This is a 40,000 acre foot a year project. Divide 4.3 billion by 40,000, it's $100,000 a foot. That's more expensive than CPT. Because of that cost and that Wellington could not dictate bonding schedule. It would be a participant in a regional project. Bonding schedule would just be, dictated. There was no alternative where we could make this affordable for the town, or that model showed that it was affordable. So with confidence, we can say that this was not. The second alternative, shortlist alternative, was the acquisition of ditch company shares. Now, primarily, we focused on North Poudre, CBT, and other ditch company shares like water supply and storage. All of them would operate the same way. All of them would take delivery at the Monroe Canal of the North Poudre system, deliver to Reservoir 3. One of the key differences, though, is that North Poudre shares do not incur the seepage loss of 25%, whereas all other sources of water do, and that affects the price significantly. While North Poudre's shares are the most expensive on a per acre foot basis, because of that 25% seepage loss, they're actually affordable. In order to do this, the town would need a carriage and storage agreement with the North Poudre company. That is in active negotiation. These shares can be acquired incrementally. That is an advantage of this alternative, is that you could buy these shares as you grow instead of taking on a large bond and building a project all at once. These shares could also be dedicated and deeded to the town by developers instead of them paying cash, for example. Or it could be that developers turn these into the town as well as the town buys them. Mix. Our analysis of this alternative is that Wellington cannot afford to purchase the shares alone, but primarily because the bonding required to expand the treatment plant around. The treatment plant is very expensive and is required to treat these water shares. So there would need to be this would have to be paired with another alternative. Downscale this alternative and pair with another. And that's something we heard in the advisory committee, is a desire to diversify the town's supplies. Instead of going after just one alternative, go after multiple, not only to hedge your bets, but also to have a well-rounded diverse supply. One of the primary risks of this alternative is that there's a limited pool of available water out there, particularly around North Poudre, which is what we recommend. We estimate that over 90% of the shares of North Poudre are already municipally owned or are owned by entities very unlikely to transact in Europe. So Colorado Parks and Wildlife, State Land Board, entities like that who are unlikely to transact. And there's a very active market. There's several entities who are actively purchasing North Poudre shares. The town would need to act quickly, and this is a risk. And the last alternative on the short list was non-tributary groundwater. Non-tributary groundwater means it's disconnected from the surface water supply in a meaningful way. And because of that, it's not administered by the state like any other water. It's more like a property right. Anybody who owns property overlaying the non-tributary groundwater has a right to extract and pump that water. And that water is unique in that it can be used anywhere for any purpose. And it can be used and reused to extinction. The North Poudre water, for example, that the town is currently using, or the Wilson well water, can only be used once. Once it's discharged out of the wastewater treatment plant, it has to go downstream. This non-tributary groundwater, the town could recapture that wastewater and make a second, third, or fourth use out. In recent decades, a large pocket of non-tributary groundwater in the upper Laramie Aquifer has been, I guess, discovered in northern Weld County. The city of Greeley developed the Terry Ranch project a few years ago to develop some of this supply. And there's several other players who are seeking to develop water there as well. We evaluated this alternative through the lens of a project called VITA. VITA is a project put on by a group called Front Range H2O. They're not the only developer of groundwater in this area, but they're certainly the most furthest along and had they have pipeline easements, they have design teams, they're drilling wells. They were able to tell us the kind of cost, quality, and delivery timeline that we needed for this alternative. So that's the alternative. This alternative would pump water out of the ground, treat it at the ranch, at the location of the well field, and to deliver treated water to the town. So that's unique, meaning the town would not need to enlarge the water treatment plant in 2040. The water is very high quality. It does not require conventional treatment. It does have heavy metals, including uranium, and that would be the water that would be treated, or that's the constituent that would be treated at the range. Front Range is proposing a system where they own all of the infrastructure, the well fields, the treatment plant or pipelines. And they would issue the town or any other off-taker the water rights. So the town would hold the water rights and a delivery obligation to deliver the town's water rights through their system. One of the critical pieces of this for Wellington, we assume that the town, after they grow into this system, would start making reuse of the effluent generated from this. And that would be done by expanding the well field at the Wilson site or thereabouts, and using that effluent to augment well pumping. So this would be this is a reuse system, but not right away. That reuse system would be pushed out. There's no use in building it until you need it, and there's no use in building it until you're using a large proportion of the overall volume. The alternative assumed Wellington would purchase 75,000 acre feet of water from the VEDA project, which works out to 750 acre feet. Non-tributary groundwater is not a forever supply. It is a non-renewable supply. It's typically issued as in a 100-year increment. That doesn't mean you only have 100 years to use it. It means on a rolling average, you can't use over that 100-year limit. So if the town uses 100 acre feet, they could roll over the excess for a subsequent. We assume that the town would buy into the VEDA project in a series of payments over the next 10 years. For the sake of the modeling, we assume the 25% down payment in year one, and then a 75% second payment at delivery around in the mid-2030s. And that was done to down payment reserves the town's participation in the project, and that second payment is pushed out to align with your bonding capacity. And then the RO plant, the reverse osmosis reuse plant, would come on later in the 2040s. Bottom line is that VEDA is affordable, assuming that this flexibility could be arranged with the developer. That RO plant is critical and will need to be developed in the mid-2040s, but could be pushed out further depending on the town's growth and financing. The risk is that this is a private developer. The town will be partnering with one as such. You need a really, really good contract. And that this is not a fully sustainable source of supply. We believe that, the town, we modeled that the town could make use of this water only during drought conditions or years whenever the surface water supply is low. That elongates the life of it, and we see a over 300-year life to this aquifer for the town. So after we have the short list of alternatives and we analyzed each in terms of risks and financing, we prioritized those that remained. The two that came out of this process were the purchasing North Poudre shares and the VEDA project. We recommend combining these two alternatives, again, because of the advisory committee's advice to diversify. And this allows us to, again, develop some surface water supply to only be able to use VEDA whenever there's surface water drought. So turning to financing, a couple different ways this could be done. VEDA has to be a cash purchase, but the North Poudre shares could be acquired again by dedication or by the town purchase. So it's basically, do the developers buy it or does the town buy it? There's pros and cons on both sides. We recommend a mix. Allow developers to dedicate North Poudre shares if they have them. If not, turn in cash and the town can buy it. water if they so choose. That also gives the town some ability to bond and buy North Poudre shares in advance if there's concerns about limited supply. We do recommend that the town's cash in lieu rate be pegged to the value of the CD of North Poudre. That allows the town to be competitive amongst their developers for whether water rights or cash are paid. I missed a point on the previous slide that the final formation of these two different alternatives really is that Vida would replace the town's existing North Poudre lease agreement in 1980. And North Poudre shares would be dedicated for all new growth. So Vida is serving a different purpose than those North Poudre shares. That's part of the mix. Sorry, I forgot to mention. So our walkaway alternative, our walkaway recommendation, pursue purchase of 750 acre-feet of the Vida project. And pursue acquisition of North Poudre shares to meet the remainder of the demand. And that's a pay-as-you-go as development occurs. Either cash or those shares will be used to build the town supply. Want to underscore that there are risks and uncertainties. One is that, Vida needs to be negotiated. We assumed a lot of numbers in these models. We need to verify all those. There's public perception of Vida. I certainly lived that at Greeley with Terry Ranch. It does have uranium. The uranium is fully treatable, but that is a concern and need to be addressed very robustly. And then another is, this has become more acute in recent times, is that home building has just generally slowed down across Colorado. A lot of the assumptions in our plan assumes that Wellington will continue to grow at a pretty good clip, but if it slows down, maybe we should reevaluate. So this is a plan that should be reevaluated often. Next steps would be to negotiate Vida, update the dedication policy to allow for the dedication of North Poudre shares or cash equivalent, and then change code to allow more frequent changes of cash in lieu, more frequent changes in the cash in lieu rate, again, because that would be pegged to North Poudre prices, and North Poudre prices change more than once a year. We recommend setting the current cash in lieu at $111,400 per acre foot. That is the current market rate of North Poudre shares of $245,000 a share and 2.2 acre feet per share. 2.2 acre feet per share is a firm yield. So that is a dry year estimate. Some recent updates, because of the North Poudre negotiations and the need to fully replace that supply or replace a portion of the supply that the town has historically used. The town is, we recommend increasing the target acquisition from Vida from 750 to 1,200. We have verified that that is doable, again, because we can push that payment out. So the feedback requested from the board. Does the board support this plan and the advisory group's recommendation to prioritize diversification away from North Poudre? Does the board support the recommended strategy of purchasing water from the Vida project and allowing both dedication and cash in lieu to acquire Poudre shares? How does the board direct staff to move forward with negotiations with Poudre and Front Range? And then so your input on updating the dedication cash in lieu policies. formalizing this recommendation. I didn't make this slide, so I'm sorry, I was fumbling.
That's why I stepped forward.
I didn't see
when
you
he
there.
kept talking. It's fair. I will jump in just quickly. Like I said, I look forward to conversation and feedback from the board. I do want to make sure that, start with to make sure if there are any questions or clarifications needed, both either from the presentation or the more dense packet material that are included. I wanted to highlight that the requests that we have for you this evening is to understand the direction from the board so we can go back, do some additional legwork to be able to come back to you with either formal policy updates, resolutions, additional strategies, any changes to support some of these changes to cash in lieu, to the dedication, our ability to dedicate only North Cooter shares. Right now, we have the ability to dedicate both North Cooter and Colorado Big Thompson. We have identified that the CBT units are not as affordable for the town, mainly due to the additional carriage and storage fees that are required, as well as predominantly it's those system losses that we incur for delivery of foreign water through that system. So with that, we would love to stand for your questions. Take feedback.
Perfect. Thank you. Hot mic. Trustee Moore?
Just questions.
Or guidance, whatever you feel comfortable with.
So I mean, CBT has gone up like $33,000 since I last was a part of purchasing it. So, it's just going to keep doing that. My feedback is I'm a fan of number 3, the mix and the Vita. I absolutely just don't want to only have 2 options if we have that third with the carriage and storage. If we can have shares of something other than North Pooter, I'd be really happy. I for sure think we should update or allow for admin to update the cash in lieu amount. Quarterly is great. Stay competitive. I'm on board for all of this. Of course, the question always is, how is this going to affect rates? And, what is the transfer of burden, if any, to the community? So future reports or, as we go through the process, seeing that information and how, I know you did the rate study and we have that coming. So, but seeing how all of this plays into that would be really important, obviously, for everyone. Then the Vita project sounds interesting. I mean, the more options we have and the less reliant we are on one source, the better. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Wiegand?
Quick question. Can you explain a little bit more about the recapturing of the water? And then being able to use it 2 and 3 and 4 times?
So the town of Wellington, we have a couple of different options for doing that. So there is what's called direct potable reuse, which is literally capturing the waste stream at the end of the wastewater treatment facility and sending it through additional treatment to be able to utilize it for other uses, including and up to potable use, meaning drinking water. More what the modeling for this effort model though for us is because we are already, our effluent is into the Box Elder Creek, which is the same place that if we were to drill additional wells similar in nature to the Wilson wells that the town currently owns and utilizes, we would have to have an augmentation plan for that because those wells are directly connected to surface water, connected to Box Elder Creek. But what the Vita project would allow us to do is we would be treating water and putting it into our waste stream that is new water, has never been seen before in the creek. And so we can create an augmentation plan with that water. So we can drill a well and without having to go out and buy additional water to put back in the creek to meet the depletion, that's what it's called. We would already be doing that by the Vita water that we're treating and putting in. Did that make sense? So we're creating our own augmentation plan.
Okay, cool.
And it will allow us to pump and therefore use less Vita water by pumping additional local groundwater. And we would already have an augmentation plan in place. That's the bulk of the reuse that we would be utilizing, but further out into the future, into this 2050, well, in addition to that though, with the construction of new wells comes the need for additional filtration, so membrane treatment, similar to what we have at the nanofiltration over here. But they're recommending reverse osmosis.
On the Vita project, I know right now there's a few people involved with it, other municipalities. Go ahead.
So for district, summer contract with Front Range H2O actively, so they've put $15 million in, I think, at this point. I know that Front Range H2O is in discussions with several other regional partners, including other towns that are currently participants in this. So there are likely to be additional off-takers as this moves forward. And it's one of the key points of kind of moving forward as quickly as we can. An early adopter usually can garner a better rate.
Beautiful. And this is a 100-year program, right?
Minimum.
Minimum 100 years.
300 if we practice augmentation and reuse.
Yeah. Perfect. I would be all set for number 3 myself.
Stance on negotiations and policy updates.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Daly.
Just I want to applaud this board and staff for being so forward thinking and making sure that we're looking out for the future of Wellington for generations and generations and generations to come. So I do want to acknowledge that first and foremost, because the way that you have approached this between both capacity and financing is really important, because maybe a solution like NISP, we always thought NISP was the answer to all the questions and we missed it, right? But maybe that's not actually the best match for Wellington, and actually financially is not feasible. So it's wonderful to have all these scenarios played out to see what would serve Wellington the best. And I'm really happy with the direction that advisory board or advisory group was giving for making sure that we have some diverse options. I think that's going to keep us the safest and most resilient into the future. Also has different timelines associated with each of those too, which I think is also very important to acknowledge. So the final recommendations that were provided in here seem absolutely wonderful, and I'm very excited to pursue that possibly in the future. And then just make sure that we're moving forward and continuously doing so, not just researching, understanding what could and should happen, but actually making it happen and putting it into movement. So this board has really been trailblazers when it comes to making sure that we're planning for the future. And it's wonderful to see that we're really doing it. So regarding the questions that were asked, diversification, thumbs up, recommended strategy, the final recommendation, mixed plus Vita. Yes, please. Negotiations, absolutely. I think we need to not pause or wait whatsoever. I think we need to move forward and see what the opportunities are financially. Policy updates make complete sense, and I think we should pursue that just to make sure that we have, again, we can be flexible as needed for money in lieu or actually taking on water. So, and I'm all in. So strategy adoption, thumbs up too. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Teets.
Okay, so I broke this down into sections to keep myself centered and focused. So the diversification aspect of it, yes, I support the advisor group's recommendations to prioritize this. Since most of the achievable alternatives identified depend on the ability to deliver water, I'm curious what that looks like when securing a storage and carry agreement that hasn't been secured or accomplished yet. So that would be one of my questions, is what does that security and the storage look like, the storage and carry? And is this an option if we don't get that agreement with MPIC?
So in order to bring foreign water into the system, we would have to have a carriage agreement.
Mhm. Correct.
us to utilize, so we have an ask to North Cougar right now to be able to understand if we can enter into direct lease agreements with other shareholders in the system, as all other shareholders are able to do. With that may come the need to have a storage agreement, and they've acknowledged that. And through our full negotiation process, the company and the board, the general manager have acknowledged that we need a carriage and storage agreement. Those are administratively approved through their process. I don't see that as a risk, but it's not finalized today as it's taken a backseat to broader negotiations for the full water supply agreement.
Got it. So that would be my only concern related to that, but I generally support it as long as we actually get that agreement set in place. Related to the recommended strategy, continue discussions, yes. With purchasing water in the VDA project, decisions on this avenue cannot be identified until a contract is actually reviewed. So it makes it extremely difficult when we don't have a contract. I'm looking forward to the negotiation side of it and seeing what that contract looks like. So at this time, yes, continue moving forward. Can I say jump in and purchase 750 acre feet? Well, no, because we don't know what that contract looks like yet. My only other concern from your presentation, which was amazing, thank you, all of this work, is we bounce back again when it was discussed that they own and maintain the items, the land, the items on the land for the VITA project. So thence we set up these extra RO products and stuff like that on land the town does not own. Kind of like how our water treatment plant was built. We did not own the land that our water treatment plant was built on. We now do, but it took years to develop and establish that. So that would be one of my concerns is what happens with all of the extra equipment, stuff like that. Is it left when the contract is vacated? How does that work?
So anything that the infrastructure that we would build associated with, like if we do need or when we would need an additional filtration facility to treat groundwater, that would be on our own land operated by us on wells that we drill ourselves on property we own in the future. So none of that would be cited with in conjunction with VITA.
Perfect. So it would not be built on that land. Oh, got it. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Significant amount for delivery to Wellington and far beyond.
Right. That's understandable. I understood that aspect, and that makes it great because then we're not maintaining that system. We are paying to have the uranium filtered out of it, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Maintenance agreement that would dictate that pricing structure and increases. There would be all kinds of negotiated terms.
Right. So as of now, yes, continue negotiations. Can I say when it asks if we recommend purchasing 750 acre feet of the VITA project in slide 25? Well, no, because we don't know what that contract looks like yet. I would like to continue negotiations though. When it comes to policy updates, so this is, while I do support a policy update, I would like to make a recommendation that covers share price plus acquisition costs. So on page 44 of the water source development plan presented in our packet, in MPIC market share is transacting at 250K, yet you quoted the 111,400.
Yeah, clarify that, please.
$250,000 a share. Each share is 2.2 acre feet.
Correct. I understand that. Not at $250,000. That's 113,006. You did. Yeah, you had used 245. So, but it's showing that it's transacting at 250K. So at 250K, that amount would actually equate to 113,636. And then that would be the 2.2 yields per share suggestion. What I would like to see is a 10% reserve in that to actually take that cash and leu to the 125,000 specifically because I'm not seeing anywhere where we are covering the acquisition costs in the market share price. So we're only basing it off of a market share rate when there is additional costs that come with buying a water share, correct?
So we transacted during a water share, the additional costs were $450.
So that included legal, closing, brokerage, carrier risk, timing slippage, and admin fees.
It included share trace, and share transfer. So the only money that we paid out beyond the purchase of that share was $450, which is 0.18% of the total cost.
Okay, and is that standard? Or is there additional fees that typically come with purchasing one share of water?
Let's step back just a quick second. So the recommendation that's in the document is a number that was put together for our presentation this evening. I'm not asking for any action to be taken. We would be considering bringing back a recommendation for cash in lieu changes to include a yield change and perhaps an ordinance change as to how we update cash in lieu, allowing that to be administratively done. And at that time, I would come back with, a formal proposal with the analysis put forward as we've done in the past, the last time we were before the board, to update both raw water supply requirement, which I'm not anticipating updating this year, but and also raw water dedication cash in lieu was in 2023. And we came forward with talk through the spreadsheet that was utilized and how the basis for those calculations. So I would come back in a separate presentation to talk that through.
Okay, but it says here town policy recommendations set cash and lieu at 111,400.
Consult recommendation to the town.
Okay, so when would that be?
In future,
It would come back as an agenda item for us to make an action.
Got it. No, I understand the presentation, but when it comes back to us, so when we look, when would it come back to us?
we need to look at the future agenda. I know we have some pretty heavy hitters coming up with budget and
Mhm.
a great deal of legislative stuff from Mr. Byrd. So we would need to fit that in this fall. I wouldn't anticipate any changes taking effect before the year.
Okay, so we won't see this item again. So are we currently collecting any of those additional acquisition costs for our water shares that we purchase?
Now the cash in lieu price is 124,100, which is more than the market rate at the moment. So there's additional
That's per acre foot.
per acre foot.
Right, but market rate was set at 250,000 via the document presented.
Honestly, the market rate is 245. That's what the last dozen or so shares have transacted at.
With the report, it was 250. which is
Right.
why
We want to be able to update it because it changes, goes up, it goes down. We want to be able to stay competitive. Which is one of the reasons we're asking for consideration to consider a policy change that would have it to where we can make this change more frequently.
Yeah.
To react to any market changes.
I don't know if it
To take that feedback, we absolutely in that process can consider ensuring that other outstanding costs are incurred or make sure that they're covered in a methodology, whether that's those costs go back to the seller directly, which we have done before, the seller had to pay for the share trace, or the seller split the transfer costs with us. There's minimal legal required in the purchase of a North Cooter share, it's just reviewing a share trace. We're not taking these to water court. There's not that kind of legal required with North Cooter. But we can review that direction. I'm happy to take that direction back, consider ways to ensure that we're capturing any of those additional acquisition costs.
Got it. So just as long as it is coming back to us
Yeah.
before this gets
would have to.
perfect. And then as far as the allocation, yes, I support the 2.2 acre feet per share yield. It seems that's kind of what it's been adjusted to this year, correct? Was it 3.5 last year?
don't. Around there, 2.5. There.
This year. Perfect. Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's it.
We will meet tomorrow as a team to go over the future meetings agenda, and I'll let the board know when we have this item rescheduled for.
Thank you. Trustee Cannon.
Thank you for the presentation. Couple of questions, couple of cautions, and a couple of comments that I have. You were talking about the North Poudre share. From my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is there's two different colors of water in the North Poudre share. One of them is the ag water, which comes out of North Poudre. The other is the CBT portion, which represents their ownership in the CBT project. Now, I was always under the assumption that CBT water was non-native water because they bring it in from across the other mountains. And because of that, that CBT portion can be used to exhaustion. Am I wrong there?
Yeah, CBT is not non-reusable water.
It's non-reusable. Okay, thanks for that clarification. As far as exhaustion of the non-renewable groundwater, the VITA project. I know there's a lot of options that can be explored for reuse of that. What you described as far as just drilling more wells, taking more water, and then taking the effluent out of the wastewater plant as an augmentation plan to replace the water you're taking out of there. But to me, that's only a double use of that water. It's not using it to exhaustion. Other ways to use it to exhaustion would be to explore, and maybe our building codes and new construction could include purple systems that can take water, recycle that water through a house. The water that comes out of your showers and so forth, not your toilets, but that's black water. But take that gray water and then be using that for other purposes. So I would want to see some exploration about how we can expand that multiple use of the water for the VITA project. The caution I have is that, for 40 years, essentially the town took cash in lieu and never bought a share. And they accumulated not a lot of money. I think it was like $9 million over 40 years. And when they finally got around to buying shares, the shares were 20 times what they were taking in cash in lieu. So my caution is that we figure out some kind of formula for dedications, and dedications, in my opinion, because North Poudre shares are in short supply. And if 90% of the shares right now are being owned, I'm concerned about taking cash in lieu and then telling staff that they have to go out there and start monitoring and trying to purchase water on their own. I would rather see the developers come in, let them make those arrangements. And if they can't make those arrangements, they just don't build. But by them making the dedications, now I know that we'll need some cash in lieu. That's why I think of a formula. I don't know what that formula is. It could be 80-20, 80% dedication, 20% cash in lieu. It could be 90-10. I don't know. It depends on what our future water uses is, what the financial plan looks like, of what it takes for the debt service for buying the 750 acre feet, the $30 million that you were talking about. We've got to factor in how much cash we need from dedications that can help offset that. But I don't like the idea of staff being tasked with, okay, here's $111,000 or something like that. Go buy a North Poudre share. By the time you act, those shares have gone, prices have gone up. Even the act of buying the shares yourself raises the price on that. So I would rather see more dedications and less cash in lieu, so that we don't find ourselves in a similar position 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Deep water wells have uranium. The Midwest taps into some very deep water aquifers they treat for uranium. They do it all the time. To me, uranium is not an issue because it can be treated for. I think we had the same discussion about the 3W water just north of town. Oh, it's polluted water. It's oily water. It's, whatever, well, you can treat for all those kind of things. So I am in favor of pursuing VITA. 7 or 8 years ago, I was not in favor of the Terry Bison Ranch option because it is a non-renewable source. However, my experience with Colorado water and all the changes and modifications in the groundwater and so forth. I mean, we've taken a very minute source of water in Colorado and expanded it. I mean, they said we were exhausted. Every drop was accounted for 50 years ago. But guess what? We're still pumping water and we're still growing. But I would be in favor of the pursuing VITA. I'm in favor of dedications of water for our growth because we can use those waters to reduce our dependence on North Poudre lease or North Poudre contract. It also reduces our dependence on the VITA water, which expands its lifespan as well. So that's where I'm at. Great job. Thank you so much for what you've done, your analysis. I think this is the step that was not taken, about 8 years ago. We had a list of options and everyone's scratching their head. Well, what do we do about it? So this way it puts it in perspective. It gives us kind of an outline of a plan of where to go and how to get there so that it's affordable and sustainable. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Yokerst, just want to thank you and Ms. White for putting together this water development plan for us, as well as staff, our planning commissioners, our community stakeholders that were involved. Obviously, the mayor and I also sat on the advisory committee for this project. So I don't have a whole lot of questions on these slides because I've seen them a whole number of times as far as that goes. But I did just want to say, obviously, this is a very exciting project for me. This board's been working on this as far as renegotiations and this entire project for the better part of almost 2.5, 3 years almost. And this is the first time we've actually been able to get this to the public. So I'm very excited about this entire thing. Probably nobody up here quite as excited as I am about this. So to get this going, I very much obviously support VITA as well as the mix of NPIC shares. Bottom line, folks, is Wellington does need to diversify our water sources. Ms. Smith, I'm very curious to hear in our executive session tonight what some of those updates are. I don't know if that'll change any of our direction that we're giving you here this evening, but obviously I very much support VITA plus a mix of NPIC shares. And I just want to highlight, obviously, with the inclusion of the RO treatment plant in 2040, maybe early 2050, extending Wellington's water life up to out to the next 300 years, I think is a monumental step that we'd be taking for the community here, and especially in helping keep our water sources affordable. Certainly support updating the dedication and CIL requirements, and I definitely encourage that we have a discussion on what those amounts are. I did have a discussion with Trustee Teets as far as some proposed numbers, and we can talk about those at a future date as far as that goes. But I do support potentially some type of reserve requirement, or I think Fort Collins deems it I'm trying to remember the language, a safety factor they include with that. Essentially, what I'd be really looking at there is, in the event that NPIC shares weren't available or something like that, that we had to hold on to that and say share price went up and then we had to go acquire those shares for an additional cost. So I'd just be taking some of those things into account. But of course, we can discuss that as we get there. Other than that, I think I have addressed all of your bullet points for feedback. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of moving targets during this whole advisory board. Things were constantly changing. They will always constantly change. To your point earlier in your presentation, you mentioned the importance of us making sure that this is reevaluated regularly and looked at to make sure this town never falls into the situation that, we recently fell into, is huge. When it comes to diversification, yeah, huge supporter of that. Definitely doing the shares with Vita. No issues with treating that water. I think it's a wonderful setup in the 300 plus years. If we start practicing augmentation, is huge. When it comes to negotiations, yes, please continue negotiations. When it comes to dedication or cash in lieu, personally, I'm always a big fan of dedication. But there are those instances where cash in lieu is something we need to do strategically. So I'm on the board over there with you on that. When it comes to policy updates, yes, I absolutely support updating the dedication and cash in lieu policies. That way, at least if we are taking cash in lieu, it will cover the cost of those shares, and maybe even have a safety attached to it, right? I think that's a very solid point to make. And then strategy-wise, yeah, I do support formalizing recommended strategy and moving forward, and obviously it'll come back to us. Thank you very much for the presentation and all the hard work. Thank you, both of you. All right, next item is going to be public comment. This is for members of the public wishing to speak on non-agenda items. Those of you wishing to speak, please sign at the sheet behind the podium, state your name for the record, and you'll be given 3 minutes. Perfect.
Peter, 34th Street. I'd like to cede my time to attendees.
Okay.
There it
Yeah,
is.
just-
Is it on? I got it. Thank you, board. I'm Lori Garcia-Sander, House District Representative for 65 down at the State House. I was here about a year ago introducing myself and just trying to get to some town board meetings, couple this fall. The session was pretty crazy and I don't make it out to the towns during session, but summer and fall are a good time to do that. So just wanted to come reintroduce myself. I'm here. You have my contact. I'll leave a card again for you. But I just want to know what's going on in your town. So I am just here as a listener, and please feel free to talk to me afterwards. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Howdy.
Good evening.
Good evening. I don't need that. 13 days ago, the world experienced the violent loss of Charlie Kirk. Some of you may not have agreed with his conservative Christian message. Undeniably, he was a strong voice for our nation, a leader and a voice of inspiration for our youth, and a God-fearing man who loved his family and his country. In the wake of his passing, there have been marches of solidarity, revivals of faith, demonstrations of peace and love, even forgiveness for the killer from his wife, from his widow, Erica. I want you to take a moment and reflect on what you have witnessed over the last 12 days in our country. Consider our differences and attempt to see things from the other side. Be inspired and just consider for a moment that God may be shaping our hearts. Conservative Christians have not reacted violently to the brutal murder of one of our own. In comparison, when George Floyd died, cities were burned, businesses looted, violence erupted, people beaten or killed. But haven't Republicans been accused of being the party of violence? Proof of the contrary is quite evident at this point. My family and I attended a vigil for Charlie Kirk at CSU last week. In that vigil, thousands of people prayed. There was anger, there was heartache, but we prayed. We prayed for his family, we prayed for those of you who are lost in the darkness, and we prayed for our country. We also doubled down on being resolute, on saving our country from the evil that dwells within our political system and media. Afterwards, I noticed one lone protester standing outside as thousands of people filtered past him out of the stadium. Nobody reacted, nobody screamed at him, and nobody threatened him. Perhaps some of you should take a page from our book and rethink your beliefs. Now, here's my message to you. As the leaders of our community, we all have different roles and voices in this life. At this moment, you have the power of the pen. You are the lawmakers and leaders we have entrusted to keep healthy and prosperous. A man cannot adequately lead his family if not with God. Likewise with yourselves, you cannot adequately lead this community if not with God. I'm not here to judge you or your actions. That will happen later when you face the Lord on your judgment day. How do you want to be remembered on earth? How do you want to be judged by God? It is not hard to know what the right or wrong decision is. If you have righteousness and compassion in your heart, it is not hard to pray for guidance before making a decision that affects many. I promise you will receive guidance. I urge you to reject the voices of those around you with unrighteous, self-enriching, biased, or hateful opinions, be it town staff, friends, acquaintances, or members of the public. Be brave enough to make righteous decisions, irregardless of what people may say, think, or do. Ignore your ego and do what is right. Ignore your buddies. If they hate you for making the right decision, they're not your friends. And you will go the rest of your life knowing in the back of your mind that you lived in fear and couldn't stand up for yourself. And yes, you will be judged in the end. I'd like to spend my remaining time in a moment of silence for you to reflect on your next decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you for your public comment. Moving on to the consent agenda. Ms. Clerk, will you please read the items on the consent agenda?
September 9th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Perfect. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Ms. Clerk, make it a roll call, please.
May I have a second?
Oh, yeah. Got ahead of myself there.
Thank you, Mayor. Trustee Teets,
Yes.
Trustee Meagan,
Yes.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Daly,
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes.
Mayor, that motion passes.
Thank you. All right, on to action items. Ms. Clerk, will you please read the title for item E1?
Resolution number 38-2025, a resolution of the Town of Wellington, Colorado, amending the Town of Wellington fee schedule effective January 1, 2026.
Perfect. Thank you. And Mr. Nick Redavid, the Finance Director and Town Treasurer, will present on this item.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Trustees. I'm Nick Redavid, Finance Director and Town Treasurer. For your consideration tonight is a resolution amending the Town of Wellington fee schedule effective January 1st, 2026. Regular review and updates to the fee schedule ensure that ever-changing costs for services provided by the town are recovered and is an important part in the budget development process of forecasting annual revenues. All amendments to the fee schedule were presented at the September 16th, 2025 Board of Trustees work session, and no additional changes to fee amounts have been made, though clarification has been provided regarding the Colorado Open Records Act fee and liquor license fees. Included in the packet was supplemental information regarding both items for reference. As it has been the practice of the town, the fees charged are the maximum amount allowed by the state as indicated in the supplemental information. In addition to the changes for Cora and liquor license fees, amendments to the fee schedule effective January 1st, 2026 as previously presented are removal of the annual vendor fee and addition of information regarding business licenses and liquor license to the special events category, updates to snow removal and nuisance abatement fees, as well as removal of the notary fee from the miscellaneous category, code sections and clarifications added to the business licenses category, minor updates to peddlers and handbill license, and the addition of pawnbrokers and secondhand dealers that is referenced in town code. And lastly, the addition of mitigation to the demolition building permit fee. As requested by the board, a review of marijuana license fees assessed by nearby municipalities was completed and has been provided tonight. The state's Marijuana Enforcement Division allows the local authority to set their own fees. The town is the local authority, and as such, the license fees are included on the fee schedule and set at the discretion of the Board of Trustees. The impact and capital investment fee page found in the fee schedule is not impacted by this resolution and will be included in the municipal utilities rates and fees update being presented at a future board meeting. Staff recommends approval of the Town of Wellington fee schedule effective January 1st, 2026, as presented tonight to ensure strong town operations. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Teets.
Sorry, I gotta get used to these buttons. So what I can say is I know that this was a request from Trustee Meagan to be brought back to us to look at increasing those fees to be more on par with some of the other direct municipalities around us are charging. If we could, if it's okay, can we get feedback from Trustee Meagan first on, is that, because I want to make sure that we're discussing what he's looking for.
Absolutely. Trustee Meagan.
Thank you. The main thing I wanted to see is if we're leaving any money on the table. You know, it's big business out there right now. They're making good money, I believe. And I don't think if there is just some minor adjustments like what we're seeing right here, that it's going to put anybody out. It's going to be no unnecessary burden on any of them at this point. And I think, you know, we're kind of the gateway to Colorado here, so we should take advantage of that. And yes, I think, you know, we need to do what we need to do. We need to be very efficient with our fees. We need to make sure that we collect what we can and be fair about it. Thank you.
Just for real quick clarification on that, Trustee Meagan.
Yes.
Are you good with the fee schedule as it is in the packet?
I would like to see it getting closer to what Fort Collins is.
For the marijuana.
On everything
application
else is
fee?
okay, but on the marijuana.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that feedback. Perfect.
That assists me.
Okay, Trustee Teets.
Okay, so if we are going more in line with Fort Collins, are we just looking at you wanting to just adopt down the column every fee that Fort Collins is looking at? Was that the goal?
I have no problem with that.
Okay, so
That's my own opinion.
was there? Oh, okay. So I'm comfortable with doing that. I just want to point out there is a few things here to note. Medical marijuana operating fee sits at $5,000, where a lot of the other local municipalities are charging $788, $2,500, $2,000. I want to make sure that you're comfortable with knocking that $5,000 down to match the $788 from Fort Collins.
I would love to keep it at 5,000, but I think if we're going to do it, we need to do it across the board equal.
Okay, I'm comfortable with following with that suggestion if the rest of the board is comfortable with doing so as well.
Thank you. Trustee Moore.
I feel like you did what we asked. I feel like you did what we asked, and so I appreciate that. I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Daly.
The explanation's super thorough on here. I don't have any really strong opinions one way or another. I do, though, think that if we were going to compare a community against ours, Berthoud would be the closest. But we differ significantly on some of those line items, both up and down. So I'm not quite sure what the overall impact would be from the perspective of a business, because not all of those are applicable to each of our businesses, as an example. But I don't have super strong feelings one way or another. But if we were going to compare against one city, I would say Berthoud, similar in size and function, I would say, for this industry.
Thank you. Trustee Can.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification and for the analysis that you handed out there. You're right. We did have a discussion on the fee schedule, and we seem to be in agreement of the adjusted fees. I am not willing to change the marijuana fees on a whim that just pops up in the middle of a meeting and say, oh, and suddenly we're all trying to become mathematicians and trying to analyze what's best for our community, again, on a whim. So I would be in favor of approving the fee schedule as noted, but we come back to revisit the marijuana at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
I would tend to agree with Trustee Cannon on this. I mean, we just got this paper a second ago. I'm not inclined to. Again, there are a number. Some of these go up, some of these go down compared to where we're at, and I would hate to pick and choose just sitting right here right now which ones those are going to be. So I would also be in favor of approving the fee schedule as is. If we want to bring this back for another discussion item to discuss those marijuana fees, I'm totally happy to do that. So that's where I stand.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for doing everything that we asked you to do in the work session. I, for one, believe that we should at some point review these fees for marijuana wholeheartedly. I think it's worth having a separate discussion altogether so we can do so with real numbers. One thing I would like to point out, and I haven't found it to be wrong with this example. Everybody charges less for medical than they do for rec. And I think there's a reason for that. But just something to keep in mind when that conversation comes back. So I'm good with the fee schedule as it is, but I would want this to come back before us at a later date.
Absolutely.
If I can make one other comment.
By all means.
By bringing it back at a later date, we're also more transparent because this is the first time we've seen this. And a lot of the people in attendance are unaware of this and just, it's almost like we're behind closed doors because we're not sharing this with the public. So I would rather have a work session or something where we can discuss this and a little bit, maybe do a little bit more analysis. On the financial end, on the impact of the town and so forth, and also the impact of the businesses in town. So thank you.
I would like to say there are copies available for the public that is here if they'd like. This would be uploaded to the. So it would be in the packet in the future.
Thank you. Trustee Teets.
I will say I was a little surprised to see a pamphlet come to us in our meeting. I'm supportive of Trustee Wiegand's want to look at this, but I would kind of possibly want to know or need to know as far as legality reasons go, can we vote on this and approve it without it being presented to the public? Because this wasn't in any packet.
Right. The fee schedule was on the agenda. So the action in front of the board tonight is action on the fee schedule. So if the board wanted to amend the fee schedule, it could be voted on. I think there is certainly a reason for more transparency, specifically with marijuana. It affects businesses that are in the town right now. But the agenda gave notice to the public that the board would be discussing, considering, and voting on the fee schedule as a whole. It could be changed. That's not to say that more transparency wouldn't be good as well.
Yeah,
Perfect. That was my question.
Okay, I have no problem bringing it back for further review. We definitely do want to get it on the calendar so we can discuss it. But I'm for bringing it back.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments, questions from the board before I open up for public comment? No.
I would like to thank Mr. Redavid for putting this information together. This was a really short time frame, hence why you have it on your dais tonight. Getting in touch with municipalities and getting information from them is never simple, and especially this time of year with school starting. So we don't normally just pass information out in on the dais. We like to get things out in the packet ahead of time, but there was a very short time frame. So thank you, Nick, for getting that information together.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'll open up for public comment. No public comment. Okay. Do I hear a motion on this item?
I move to approve resolution number 38-2025, a resolution for the town of Wellington, Colorado, amending the town of Wellington fee schedule effective January 1st, 2026, as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any final comments from the board? No. All right. Ms. Clerk, may I get a roll call, please?
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Teets,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Daly,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes.
Mayor, that motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Clerk, would you please read the title for item E2?
Resolution number 39-2025, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Wellington approving a restated employment agreement with the town administrator.
Thank you. Mr. Dan Sapienza, the town attorney, will present on this item for us.
Mr. Mayor, do you mind if I present here from
By all
my
means.
seat? This is an item that came back or came forward at a request of some members of the board, especially during last year's consideration of the town administrator contract. The contract was originally signed in 2020. It's renewed annually by action of the board. And so that means at this point, we have the contract and 4 amendments. Each year, there have been minor substantive amendments that have been requested, but largely it's a renewal and then a pay adjustment. And so the intent of this restated agreement was to remove that requirement for the annual renewal, and so that it's a contract that is effective until terminated. And then annually, the pay for the town administrator would be adjusted based on the same conditions, same rules that apply to other employees with regard to merit pay and cost of living. There are other amendments in here, adjustments in here, kind of some technical changes is what was the intent of those. I will point out that in the packet, there's a red line version of the contract that is for informational purposes only. That is the contract adopted in 2020 with all of the amendments added into it. So as a complete package, those 4 pages are not an official version of the contract. I put that together just so you had an idea of the items that are being changed in this new version. Those are the big substantive items, as I said, the renewal and the pay adjustment. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. This just kind of makes things, the intent here is to make this more efficient each year rather than having to go through the process of talking about pay adjustments for all employees and then coming back and having a whole separate vote for town administrator.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Trustee Moore.
I'm supportive of this. I remember our conversation last year. It streamlines the process. It takes away the unnecessary fear that comes with approaching a board and wondering if your job is going to be renewed or not annually, year after year. So I'm supportive of this, and I appreciate it being here. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Wiegand.
I'm in support of this. We always got methods for termination if there is ever a need for that. So this just takes some of the redundancy out of it. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Daly.
I agree. This brings efficiency, streamlines our meetings with less agenda items. It removes there's no loss of control whatsoever from the perspective of the board in our relationship with our town administrator. So we still have all the abilities and rights as we would to in control of this position. So I have no concerns or loss of power associated with this. I just think it's making us more efficient.
Thank you. Trustee Teets.
Okay, so I've got a few questions to verify, and then I'll do my talking points and statements. So I want to verify that the current and future boards can agree to open up negotiations related to this employment agreement at any time if they feel the need arises.
Yes.
Okay.
A contract would have to be agreed to by the town administrator as well. But yes, if a future board wanted to propose a new contract, that could be proposed. Yeah.
Right. Is performance related items under the umbrella of with cause or without cause?
Can you clarify?
So
the
if
question
there
for
is
me, please?
performance related issues where the job is not performing or she's not meeting benchmarks, is that removal? So is that termination fall under with cause or without cause?
That's a really, as you know, I hate answering really, really general questions, and any attorney would similarly. With cause termination would include for negligence and negligence and malfeasance. So if performance fell into those categories, that would be with cause.
Okay, perfect. Will Patty's contract be up for review after the 2026 board elections?
So after every election, the board must reappoint a town administrator.
Mhm.
That's different. That's a separate thing than the contract renewal. So currently the contract is renewed annually,
Mhm.
and she is reappointed every 2 years after the election. So the biennial reappointment would still occur.
Perfect. Will this contract limit a resident's ability to know what town residents are paying their town administrator?
No,
Perfect.
no.
Is Patty's salary available for core request if not addressed in employment agreement?
This new agreement ties pay to the pay grades
pay
for-
grade
by
scale.
the town. That the
Correct.
town's pay grades are still available like any other pay grade for any other employee.
Okay, so my talking points. There is nothing in this employee agreement that limits this board or any future board's ability to call the contract forward for negotiations and review. The town administrator's salary remains a matter of public record and will continue to be available through core requests, ensuring transparency in government. I also understand that the administrator's contract is scheduled for review every 2 years in coordination with election cycles. At those times, if the sitting board determines further discussions or adjustments are needed, it will be within their authority to open those negotiations. That said, with all of that said, yes, I understand that there is those protections and everything. That said, I don't agree with the idea of an evergreen contract for a town administrator. While a standard employment agreement for staff is normal and appropriate and understandable, an indefinite or automatic renewing contract for a town administrator presents concerns for me. So my hesitation stems from prior experience with indefinite arrangements, such as the MPIC contract we've had lots of experience with, which have proven difficult to manage and create long-term obligations without clear accountability. So trustees are charged with evaluating and holding the town administrator accountable. It's one of the only 3 that we do this with. So an evergreen agreement blurs that accountability by removing the need for regular, deliberate review and renewal. I believe a defined contract term paired with structured performance reviews and clear renewal or renegotiation points better align with the governance responsibility of the board while still providing the administrator with stability and clarity. My request is to amend Section 3 in the terms that this agreement continue to be renewed annually alongside the administrator's regular review, which will still come annually anyways. Whichever way you look at it, one hand in one hand in the other, this contract, if you go in perpetuity, there is no guarantee that she's going to have stability in her job when another board is elected. There is no guarantee that a group of board members would choose to remove her, even with approving everything that's been adjusted and recommended. So my thing doesn't come from the stability worry or trustees not having being able to have repercussions if they want to act on something. My understanding from why us as trustees do this annually and do her review and evaluations annually is because we set a standard for accountability, but we also set a standard for clarity on expectations. We do that annually because I'm going to admit it, our requests are change monthly. So having that accountability and standard annually sets a kind of a base on each side for trustees and the town administrator. So that would be my request, is to amend that term to just do this annually with coinciding with her review.
Thank you. Trustee Keenan.
Thank you. I disagree with a lot of what you said. You know, administrator, town managers, town administrators should be getting a yearly review by the Board of Trustees, where you lay out your expectations, you lay out goals, you have, it's an interactive time with your chief administrative officer. So you're both on the same page about what those expectations are. I like the idea of getting rid of the 1-year term, and I'm going to talk about it from a personal standpoint, not necessarily from an accountability standpoint, because the accountability comes through the performance reviews and not through a contract. On a personal side, having to come back in a open meeting like this every year, it's difficult. It's difficult for that individual to go through. It was difficult for me when I was the town administrator here. It's very stressful, and it's unnecessary. The town has the ability, this board has the ability to terminate the administrator's contract at any moment. They can. And we classify that as with cause or without cause. You know, if having a 1-year term, if you elect not to renew the contract, that's termination without cause, which means she's entitled, or he would be entitled to, the full separation and agreement, the full benefit package that's provided, again, as protections. You see, when we enter into a contract with an administrator or a town manager, we're both making a commitment. We make a commitment to that individual to perform to a certain level of expectation, a certain level of professionalism, to manage the organization, to lead the staff, and to assist the board in policy, and also with providing direction. Many times this manager or administrator is coming at great expense to make an investment in that community. When I moved here, I sold a house. I had to move across country, all of this on my own dime. You know, luckily I didn't have kids to have to about taking them out of school and putting them in a different school. So it's a lot of stress, and that's why we have a commitment. And I've been very pleased with the discussion we had a year ago about the administrator's contract when it came up for renewal, because we were starting to make inroads to having a more professional contract between the town and our administrator. I'm a firm believer in the governing organization for all town managers and town administrators. It's called the International City Managers Association, ICMA. And they have a gold standard for a lot of different aspects of what a city manager can do to help build relations with the boards, to help with staff, to help bring in economic development, to bring in effective teams and so forth. And one of those protections that have been built in and been recommended by ICMA is to get rid of term limits on those contracts, with the idea being that when you engage a town manager, that person is there and is going to give you everything you do. And I know Patty does not work a 40-hour week. It's probably closer to 60 hours a week. And I think, quite frankly, she's doing a great job of that. I mean, we can see the effects of that, of her leadership with demonstrated by the staff and the effectiveness that they do their job, the professionalism, the amount of dedication that they have to our community and to this and to their jobs. So having that open-ended contract is not necessarily taking power away from the town. What it does is it gives assurances to both parties, both to the administrator and also to the board, that as long as that person is doing the job to their best abilities, that we can enjoy a long engagement with that person and they can continue to prosper and the town can continue to prosper at the same time. So I never liked seeing when I had to go through those yearly reviews, you know, people standing up and bad mouthing this and nitpicking this and so forth like that. It's demeaning. And quite frankly, I think it's unnecessary. If we're going to be evaluating our town administrator, then we have to do that the proper way with proper goal setting or proper expectations, clearly defined objectives, you know, and regular feedback so that they can make sure that they're still on track. So I think we've got a good system in place to do that, to provide those opportunities. Now, if the administrator wants to leave, to resign, or like I did in Fraser, I retired, or they take another job, they're not entitled to any severance package and so forth like that. That's a resignation. But what I've seen too many examples over the years of the new elections come in and a new board saying, we just want to start off fresh. We want to, and we're going to start by getting rid of the town administrator. Well, I appreciate the fact that that decision is a little bit more hard to overcome, especially when we expanded the severance package to 12 months, which is an industry standard. Contract without term limits, another industry standard, a gold standard. And quite frankly, I'm happy with everything you're doing, Patty. And I would like to see you continue with that. And I don't want you to be stressed out when every year when contract time opens up, you're saying, oh, what's going to happen now? And the reappointment every 2 years, I mean, that's a statute that we have to follow. You reappoint your town attorney, you reappoint your clerk, you reappoint your town administrator, your town manager. That's just a procedural thing. It has nothing to do with their performance. It has nothing to do with their contract. It's just a legal procedure that we have to follow. So I'm in favor of this contract the way it's written. I like taking out the terms and getting rid of, you know, the time it takes for the Board of Trustees to go through this, and also the stress that it puts on staff and our town administrator. So thank you for letting me have that time to say that.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so this whole thing is very much a minor administrative or procedural change in my mind. I just want to be very clear on a couple things. The town administrator is still subject to annual review, as is required every year. And I do want to be clear that obviously this codifies that the town administrator is eligible for the merit and COLA pools each year. However, those raises are still at the direction of the board as per the contract. So I just want to be clear on a couple things there. I also want to say that Trustee Ken, I appreciate you because you made actually a number of points that I was about to make, which is that the decision of any board to simply not renew the administrator's contract or does not constitute a with cause termination. That's under the existing contract as it's written now. Regardless of expiry of the contract or the board's failure to reappoint, the town administrator would still in fact be eligible for severance pay. So I just want to be clear on those couple things there. So all this does really in my mind is rather than the board obviously having to renew the contract each year, basically all this does is allows it to automatically renew, and it would be up to the board to motion for termination either with or without cause, subject to the terms in the contract. So I think this is a very minor change. And if the board wants to, pursue another direction or whatever that may be, again, they're more than welcome to do that. All they have to do is make that motion. And again, it needs to be subject to the terms outlined in the contract, whether it's with or without cause. But this really doesn't change much procedurally in my mind. So that's all I have.
Thanks, sir. I'm all for it. We've talked about it plenty of times. We've gone over it. We've talked about the benefits. It's just going to make us more efficient overall. It's going to lessen the stress on the town administrator. She'll be able to perform at a higher rate without that stress. So ultimately, in the long run, I think it's something that will actually save us money. When we look at it big picture in that aspect, still going to be reviewing performance, still going to be based off of all that. We don't lose any control of that nature. So I'm all for it. At this point, we will move forward with public comment. Member of the public wishing to speak, given 3 minutes, please state your name at the podium for the record.
Good evening, John Gator, 8132 4th Street. So I'd like to mention a comment that Trustee Cannon made, that you're making a commitment as a board to the administrator. And another comment that Trustee Mason made, that this is a minor procedural change. This is not, because when you make it an auto-renewing contract, the 7 of you now are determining what the contract will look like for the board in 2 years, the board in 4 years, the board in 6 years, the board in 8 years. Because the board can't just say, hey, we're going to reevaluate. Now, that doesn't mean that, oh, we're not going to renew the contract. What this board has done, what the prior board did, and the board before that, since Ms. Garcia has been here, they felt she had done a good job. And so every year the contract had adjustments that raised pay, that made benefits. Trustee Cannon, you were one of the big proponents of moving it from 6 months to 12 months in 7 months. Those were all changes that were made to the contract in that renewal period. You as a board, the prior boards have all had to deal with a contract that the board back in 1983 signed. I have no clue what they were thinking when they signed that board, but it's caused headache for decades now. You're, in essence, making a similar choice, that you are committing future boards to a contract that you have put in place. And I completely understand the concerns, Mr. Cannon. I was here when you were town administrator here, and I saw how that went down, and that wasn't right. So I appreciate that. But I'd like to remind the 7 of you, you are negotiating on behalf of the town of Wellington, and you were elected by the residents of the town of Wellington who represent us. Your job is to provide a competent and solid town administrator. If you feel that Ms. Garcia fills that role, then you should continue to renew her contract, give her the contract that's needed. But your primary goal should not be what is the best for the town administrator. It would be what puts the town and future boards in the best position, because that's your job. Your job is not to negotiate for Ms. Garcia, that's her job. Your job is to negotiate on behalf of what is best for the residents of this town. I understand it's inefficient. It may be uncomfortable to have to come to these public meetings. That's on purpose, because the 7 of you deal with this day in, day out, every week. Most of the residents of this town have no clue what's happening. They don't know what's good. They don't know what concerns there are. And if everything is good, which is what you're saying, then great. Share that with the people so that they can have confidence saying, we know that you're making the right decision. When there's an auto renewal, there's no conversation. The residents of this town have no idea what's happening. They just know, I see our town administrators getting paid this, what in their mind is a very large amount of money with no understanding as to why. If you feel that that is an amount that should be paid, then you should have no issue as elected officials explaining to the residents that you represent why you feel that amount is justified. So I would say, please do not do the auto renewal.
Thank you.
Christine Gator, same address. Just about the negotiations, yes, you can open negotiations, but that doesn't mean the town administrator has to agree to anything that you want to change, because it is auto renew, it is lasts forever. She will never accept anything less than what's in this agreement. So you can never change it unless it's better. that's just how negotiations work, as you know, with North Cooter. They don't want to change it because it's not good for them to help us. Same way, although it's open for renegotiation, I highly doubt that will ever happen once you have it on auto renewal. It just never ends, and the two sides can't agree, so it's never going to be changed. It will just stay this way. And like my husband said, you're hampering future boards from making that decision. You're making the decision for future boards, for the future leaders of this town. And I don't think that's right. I think you should let other leaders decide what's right for them 10 years down the road. Just like the North Cooter contract, they thought it was a great plan. Let's make it last forever. And now it's not so great anymore. Don't make that same mistake that 20 years from now, it's no longer good. And you guys made that decision, that North Cooter decision that you all hate. You are known as the board that made that decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Turn the mic on. Do I hear a motion on this item?
I move to approve resolution number 39, 2025, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Wellington approving a reinstated employment agreement with the town administrator.
I second.
I now make a motion to
Oh.
amend that.
Yeah.
Got it. I make a motion to amend the contract to remove the auto renewal.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. So we're gonna go ahead and run a vote on it. But well, I mean, I guess we need discussion first. Yeah. We'll start with you, Trustee Teets, since you're the amended motion.
I stand by my statements that I had made earlier, that I think that this is a responsibility of us as trustees. It is a responsibility to deal with and address this annually. Is it uncomfortable? Of course. But you can't walk away from uncomfortable reviews and employment agreements. Nobody else is given that option or alternative. Like, it's one of those things, you walk in, you do your review, and you move on. I have managed multiple employees over the years, and annual reviews and reevaluations are something that is extremely standard. So it's again, one of those things that I feel confident about. We have members of the public that are also stressing that they would like to be able to access that information and be able to be present for these reviews. And we are represented to represent the people that elect us. That is the reality of what we look at here. I have no other suggestions or amendments to the contract. So I think that having that renew, not annual renew, or having it renew annually is a fair, considering a lot of the asks that are in this contract.
Thank you. Trustee Cannon, or well, I guess Trustee Meagan, since you second that motion, we'll hear from you too.
Got a question for Dan on this annual renewal part. Currently we got it on an automatic. It is what it would be if we pass this, right? Automatic renewal without but we're still going to have the evaluation and all that with this. So even the only thing that by doing it on the annual, I'm just trying to understand it good, is we don't have to redo the contract every year, right? The contract is there as far, and future trustee boards can change the contract at any time, or is that a no?
A lot of questions there. First, yes, there's still the annual renewal, the annual evaluation process for the town administrator. There's also, as we discussed earlier, there's still also the biennial reappointment that happens after the election. This is a change so that we don't have to have, the board doesn't have to take up an affirmative vote each year to renew the contract. Now, if there are amendments, that would be that's a whole different conversation. I mean, if there are substantive amendments, if the board desires to renegotiate the contract at some point or open up the contract for renegotiation, any future board could propose that. Of course, the town administrator would have to agree. This is a contract between the parties, right? So the board can't unilaterally change the contract.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
And that's shown in section 8, annual performance and compensation evaluation. So that is that section that indicates that.
Thank you. Trustee Cannon.
Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? The original motion or the amended motion?
We're voting on
We
the
would be
amendment.
voting on the amended motion.
Yeah, I'm not in
The
favor of that.
amendment to the
Well,
motion.
sure. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, well, let's see. I disagree that this is setting up future boards with the ability to not renegotiate, right? Renegotiation of the contract can be done at any time the board sees fit. Presumably, most boards are going to do this during annual review season, presumably, but they could do it any time in theory. Of course, as with any contract renegotiation, the town administrator would, of course, need to agree to those changes. If the town administrator does not agree to new terms of a new contract, the administrator can still be terminated without cause. This is fundamentally exactly the same as how the existing contract works. If negotiation terms aren't agreed to, the contract expires and the administrator is let go without cause and eligible for severance. Therefore, I do not see a fundamental change here.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions, comments from the board before we take a vote? Trustee Moyer.
Yeah, I just to say, you said earlier, Trustee Daly, that we were a board who was blazing the trail and planning for the future. And I think that this is not it's not a lock-in. It's stability, it's transparency. The evaluations don't happen in the public. They happen in executive session anyway. So it's not like they're going to be seen by anyone. You say, so there's not an issue there. I believe this is what's right. And it doesn't change anything. That's the bottom line.
Thank you. Trustee Daly.
Also in section 8, just to read it, nothing herein shall be construed to alter the authority of the town board to remove the town administrator, including as provided by state statute and town code. So this takes absolutely no authority away from the board. It really is just an efficiency, a change in wording in order to create efficiency. So I'd love to vote.
Thank you. All right, we're going to vote on the amended.
The amendment to the motion.
Yes, the amendment to the motion. Ms. Clerk, make it a roll call, please.
Trustee Teets,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
No.
Trustee Cannon,
No.
Trustee Daly,
No.
Trustee Moyer,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
No.
Mayor Shosse.
No.
Mayor, that motion fails.
Thank you. Okay, do I hear a motion?
No,
No, I can't. Yes.
already have a motion to second.
Okay, motion's there. Any further discussion before we move forward? No. Okay. Ms. Clerk, may I get a roll call on the initial motion?
Trustee Daly,
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Absolutely, yes.
Trustee Teets,
No.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes.
Mayor, that motion passes.
Thank you. All right, next step is town reports. Mr. Dan Sapienza, the town attorney.
No report at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Garcia, town administrator.
No report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All staff communications were in the packet. Moving on to board reports. Trustee Moyer's got a board report.
I do. I have two things. Coming soon, there will be an exciting development in partnership between the Safe Routes to School Wellington and the Parks and Rec Department. We're going to see some new additions around town, and I won't spoil it yet because I'll wait for Billy, but we're very excited about it. And then I came with this, so I wanted to share. In these times of deep reflection and undeniable challenge, where justice has faltered, the Constitution feels strained, and racism continues to cast its shadow, we must rise not in judgment, but in resolve. Let us reject division and embrace the truth that dignity belongs to all. Hope is not lost. It is reborn in every act of courage, every voice that speaks for equity, and every hand extended in solidarity. Together, we can rebuild what was broken, not by returning to what was, but by forging what must be. And then I have Psalm. How very good and pleasant it is when kindred live together in unity. Thanks.
Thank you. Any reports, Trustee Wiegand?
Yes, Rebecca Daly, Trustee Daly, and I were at the grand opening, or whatever you would call it, of the Larimer County Juvenile section that they just redid. They have 8 permanent beds there for, I think these, for the kids that are going to be admitted for 3 to 5 days. And so they're doing a great job down there. I mean, they're expanding their overall, what their duty is at that point. And I mean, our county is needing this stuff drastically. So, and I know it was the last meeting that I was at, they were having over 700 monthly clients coming to that place, and 24% of them were juveniles. And juveniles are from 12 to 17 years of age. So thank God we got that in there, and I think they're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Daly?
It's wonderful to see the tax dollars at work at that facility at Longview. It's really an amazing facility in general, and they're also highlighting art from adolescents as well in the facility. So it's really a cool place. So if you have opportunity to tour it, please do. Speak Like a Pirate Day was celebrated recently last Friday. Yeah. By our Parks and Rec department, and also some members of PROS were there to help. They did the screening, did a movie in the park of Pirates of the Caribbean, and then also had all kinds of activities and stuff out. It was very well attended. I was at the football game, so I wasn't able to go, but I heard it was a great time, and just one of the examples of many opportunities to get out into the parks and have fun. Lots of events that are going on year round. At the recent Main Streets meeting, I brought up the topic of what we were talking about at the budget, at our last budget conversation regarding potentially having a grant or some kind of assistance for businesses or entities, organizations that exist along Cleveland during the construction project, to kind of get their feedback on it, and what amount could be the right amount, and how could it work, or how could it activate something else, or what were their opinions on it, because I thought that'd be very valuable after the conversation that we had in our group. We decided to have a little bit more of a focused conversation to really brainstorm together and get that kind of feedback from them. So I think I'm going to plan on participating in that, and I'll bring back anything I hear or anything like that. So, but that will be upcoming, just a conversation about kind of that plan from a specific business perspective. What could that money mean to them? What would they recommend instead? Is a gift card really helpful or not? Who knows? I mean, from their perspective is what I want to hear. So I'm going to be seeking that information. Speaking of football, this Friday, our football team will be playing at Canvas Stadium. I don't know if anybody went last year, but it is the coolest thing ever.
Who are they playing?
It's our big bowl game.
Yes.
Cup.
Timnith.
What do they call it? It's
the Beat Digger Cup, I think.
Beat Digger Cup.
Or so. Something along that, yeah. Has to do with the sugar beets.
Yeah. Beet bowl.
Something, yeah.
It's in a trophy.
I'll be there.
We've gotten it every time, so yeah. But we are the main game, the evening event. So, but it is so cool to go to Cleveland Avenue. That's not where we're going.
Yeah.
To Canvas Stadium and celebrate the guys. It's just such a awesome experience, and get to root them on. There'll be a lot of our students on the field as well during parades and other activities. They bring all kinds of kids to participate in the event, not just football. So I suggest everybody go. If you are not a student in the Poudre School District or staff, it only costs $15. So please come and celebrate with our team. I think that's all I have today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it the
Trustee.
Box Elder Cup?
Oh, box elder.
Yeah, yes, that's what it is. It has
They put a
beets
beet in it every
It
time,
has
yeah.
beets in.
It's more of for.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Trustee Teets.
Nothing.
Thank you. Trustee Cannon.
First of all, a shout out to Cody Bird, Biz West, 40 under 40. How much did that nomination cost you there, Cody? No, I can't think of anyone who deserves it more. Doing a great job, Cody. Secondly, a reminder, the regional elected meeting is next Monday. So hope to see you all there. Third, October the 17th is the next Colorado Municipal League Policy Committee, and I'll be attending that meeting. The first of the year, I think we'll be looking to reappoint me to that. I love doing that job. I've been doing it for off and on 8 or 9 years now, and it's very important. A couple of issues on there. The town of Salida, for example, is proposing some changes that allows mostly mountain communities the affordability as a statutory town to raise revenues to address housing, especially short-term housing, to counteract the negative effects of short-term housing. I'd like to see how that discussion goes as a statutory town. We, whatever they decide, and if it gets approved, that would also apply to any statutory town. However, I'm hopeful that our budget next year for home rule discussions and to become a home rule community will be successful. We won't have to worry about that too much. But that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Tim.
I've got the Larimer County Regional Opioid Abatement Council on Thursday, and I will also see Trustee Cannon and Trustee Daly at the Larimer County Regional Elected Officials meeting on Monday. That's all I've got.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I have no board reports except football game is be there by 7. It starts at like 7:20, 7:30. If you plan on going to Canvas Stadium for that game. Should be really good, and thank each and every one of you for your dedication and hard work and what you put into this. It's not always easy, but it's fun doing it with you guys. So thank you for that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Would you be interested in maybe teasing the town of Tinmouth a little bit, mayor to mayor? If whoever wins has to wear the other team's jersey to the next council meeting or something like that?
Yeah. So so I am the honorary captain for the game,
Oh, even better.
and so is Timnath's mayor for their team.
Okay.
And so I'll definitely make a wager at the coin flip.
Yeah, well, and we can publish this. We can do a little video, put something online.
Yeah, we can do.
Could
we
be
can
all
do
kinds
some-
of fun. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we can make that happen.
Could we
Thank
bring
you.
Welly out to the game? Could we?
That's not.
That's just a
That's
little
not,
question.
isn't that Main Street? Yeah, Main
Oh.
Street. No, Main Street. Main Street.
Well, Mayor Pro Tem, you like to dress up? All right. So moving on to our executive session. Ms. Clerk, will you please read the title for G1? After this, we'll take a quick recess.
For the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and/or instructing negotiators pursuant to 24-6-4024 CRS, and for the purpose of receiving legal advice pursuant to 24-6-4024 CRS regarding acquisition of water resources by the town, as required by CRS 24-6-402 2D.5, 2A, and 2E, The executive session proceedings will be electronically recorded and the record will be preserved for 90 days through December 22nd, 2025.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
I make a motion to enter executive session.
I second.
Thank you. Ms. Clerk, may I get a roll call, please?
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Daly,
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Teets.
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason.
Yes.
Mayor Shosse.
Yes.
Mayor, that motion passes.
Thank you. For the public, the board is now entering an executive session. Members of the public in person will be asked to leave. And those of you on Zoom, the meeting will end.